snow-covered landscapes, frozen valleys, and dreamy fjords. In the south of Norway, winter is romantic, but icy cold. Whoever lives here has long since adapted to this. The route from Bergen to Andalsnes is considered one of the most beautiful train routes in Europe. Films like Harry Potter or Star Wars were shot here. Bergen, second largest city in Norway. Its location on the Atlantic makes the winter here erratic. The wind constantly whistles and pushes the clouds from sea to land, which means rain and snow one after the other. The snow doesn't last on the ground. The reason? The Gulf Stream, which warms the sea. The thermometer rarely falls below 5 degrees, and so it rains an average of 265 days a year. In the Middle Ages, Bergen was the most important trading centre in Norway. All goods were shipped from here. That made the city rich. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. The train is about to leave. The Bergen Railway, which connects the coastal city with the capital, Oslo. Daniel Hesjedal is the conductor on the train today. The train is about to start. 516 kilometers with the Bergen Railway to Oslo, the first of a total of 4 stages. It takes 7 hours to travel to the capital. Just after Bergen, the Wi-Fi is lost. A real nuisance in Norway. After all, the country is one of the leading nations when it comes to digitalization.
Here's the button for the internet. Turn it off, and on again. It works. I started in the restaurant a few years ago, and I was there for 3 years. Then I became a train conductor, and I really like it. I don't want to do anything else.
After 1 hour, the train reaches Voss, a well-known winter sports area at 700 meters above sea level. Voss lies between the 2 largest fjords in Norway, the Sonja and Hardanger fjords. There is also a family here that raises sheep. Not just any sheep. They are an old Norwegian breed with thick, shaggy fur.
Yeah. Come on.
Ivar Lorne has taken over the farm from his father. His 16-year-old son Lasse helps with the work on the farm.
Come on. Come on. Yeah.
We have a mixture of the old Norwegian breed and black-headed sheep, which probably came from Scotland originally. We'll probably have about 300 winter lambs.
Lambing will start soon. That's why Ivar keeps the pregnant mothers close to the farmyard.
Ja, sitter fint. Sitt fint. Ja.
The rest of the flock of sheep live in the open in the surrounding mountains all year round. Now Ivar is going there to see what's going on because there's a risk of injury on the frozen ground in winter.
They can run in and out of here how they like, all winter long.
The Lorna farm is a family business in the fourth generation, which requires inventiveness. When the sheep business was rather sluggish in the 80s, Ivar's father had an idea and revived a traditional dish. Smalahövet, burnt and smoked sheep's head.
Sauen var første dyret de fikk. Og før var det en
It used to be an everyday leftovers meal 30 years ago.
30-40 årene så har det blitt festmat.
Then it became a feast for special occasions.
Og svi hodet og selge til butikker og folk sånn.
After the burning, it goes to the smokehouse. It smells of beechwood, fir branches and other secret ingredients.
The smoking process takes 8 to 10 hours. Here in this area, we use juniper, among other things.
Og litt sprake.
The smaller Hervits from Lerner Hoth are selling like hotcakes, so that Ivar even buys heads from the slaughterhouse. He's had a flame machine built. Now he can produce even faster. Smoked and flamed, half a sheep head costs €10. It's sent by post. Visitors can also try the smoked sheep's head on Ivar's farm. And if they're not there, the family can sit in the guest room themselves.
Besides the farm, we now also do other things, such as hospitality. We have to offer many different things to keep the farm going.
They have turnips and boiled potatoes with the meat. Smalahövet is their Sunday feast, and if it were up to Ivar, it would be Sunday more often. Voss is the largest and best-known winter sports area in western Norway. Behind this facade hides the dream of many people. One can fly. Amelie Hegeland is about to take off.
This is a tight-fitting suit made of very thin material. So you can fly better. It keeps you balanced.
bedre å fly, så den er veldig balansert.
Indoor skydiving is the name of this new sport. So far, there are only 2 facilities of this kind in Europe. The system was developed by a company from the Ruhr area, a tunnel in which the wind blows upwards to 280 kilometers per hour.
We have minimalised all the risks so that nothing can happen. We're a safe place for skydiving. In the tunnel, we blow the air from below. The wind goes into the turbines, then it's sucked in through the funnel again and blown upwards.
Now it's Amelie's turn.
Alle kan fly.
Everyone can fly no matter how old you are. Some learn it quickly, some a little slower. But what can you learn in 5 minutes?
Jeg har lært på 5 minutter.
Amelie has found her dream hobby. In 2018, she even became European champion. The Bergen train continues eastwards. The construction of the Bergen Railway, 1894, a masterpiece of its time. 15,000 workers slaved in the rugged terrain, laying rails from valley to valley. They dug 182 tunnels as protection against avalanches so that the Bergen Railway could also run in winter. Construction was completed after only 15 years. Weather-related train interruptions are rare in Norway, and when they do happen, they're remembered forever.
Once we had to stop because everything was snowed in. There was nothing moving on the whole route. So we had to take the bus to Bergen.
The next stop is Myrdal. Many people change here, into the Flam. About 800,000 tourists take the train every year, a highlight for this Australian travel group as well.
I've brought tours to Norway before, usually in summer, but I have to say in winter it's very special, a lot less tourists.
It's so different for us because we had to buy all clothes because we don't have these clothes.
Very cold, but beautiful. You know, the winter, it's completely different from the summer.
Before the Flam went into operation in 1941, the villages along the fjord could only be reached by water or on foot. Kjorfossen, almost 100 meters high. A perfect place for a short photo stop. The journey to Flam takes 40 minutes. In winter, it commutes back and forth 4 times. Return ticket costs €50. The Flam Railway passes through 20 tunnels, almost all of which were excavated by hand. Helge Hestenes has been a conductor on many railway routes. But the Flam has always been his dream train. For more than 20 years, he applied for it from time to time, and 10 years ago, he was finally accepted.
It's simply the most beautiful place you can be, and the passengers are all great. It's a lot of fun to work here. Of course, there are a lot of tourists in summer, but it's just great.
In Flam, you can see Norway's most environmentally friendly innovation. The Future of the Fjords, the first emission-free ferry in the country. It's 40 meters long, 15 meters wide and 16 knots fast. She's in command on the bridge. Anu Pitalainen, the Finnish captain, used to work as a hairdresser on an American cruise ship. That became too boring for her, so she went to nautical school. She's been the captain here for a year.
Norge, hvor Jonny først har sjekket med kikket, og sen han gir meg. Den hele idé var...
The Geilo Fjord is a World Heritage Site, and new laws will come into force in 2026.
Snart vi skal få nye regelverk som gjelder utslipp.
Diesel boats won't be allowed to sail anymore for environmental reasons. And so we already have the right ship with a solution for the new rules that will soon be applied.
From 2026 on, this will also apply to the Geilo Fjord. The fjord hardly ever freezes over, and the snow only remains on the mountain tops. The reason is the warm water temperature. With a width of 250 meters, the Nerøy Fjord is the narrowest in the world, and the ship is made of light carbon material.
Vi har is, vi har kraftig vind.
We have ice, strong wind and snow in winter. The wind especially is a big problem. Then we have to steer hard against it, otherwise we drift off. We have only 1 meter of draft and the ship is very light. Then it becomes difficult to maneuver.
The ship is the only means of transport for some of the inhabitants here. Whoever wants to get on or off has to say so. The crew of the ferry works in a 14-day rotation.
I don't have children. I love my job. When I'm here, I don't miss home. And when I'm at home, I don't miss the job.
Chief of the engine room is Helge Hagerup. His responsibility is to see that the electric ferry always has enough power. At the final station in Gudvangen, the batteries are recharged. The power left is sufficient for the 1.5-hour return trip, but safety comes first. It takes 20 minutes to charge the batteries.
There are 300 batteries, which weigh almost 10 tons in total.
Down in the engine room, there is a loud buzzing noise.
Here are the engines. 450 kilowatts flow through the cables and drive the propellers.
A battery power equivalent to the power of 50 electric cars. An investment to preserve the beauty of the fjords for the future. In the middle of the 19th century, many Norwegians emigrated from this remote area to America. Those who stayed here had to be largely self-sufficient. Making shoes was also a part of it. Not just any shoes, but Aurland shoes, which later became internationally famous as penny loafers. There were no less than 19 shoemakers here until the end of the 1960s. Today, there's only the Aurlandskoen company. Sune Carson studied orthopedic shoemaking and design. She creates the models and the new collections. When there's a lot to do, she also sits at the sewing machine herself.
This is the historic shoe village of Norway. Everyone produces penny loafers nowadays, but they originated here.
Sune chooses the leather herself, just like the colours, this year light brown.
The leather comes from Italy. And it's very important for me that the tanners produce in an environmentally friendly way.
de tenker på miljøet da, når de produserer skinnet. Det kan jo bli veldig
Many don't. But for me, environmental awareness is the most important thing.
I garverier. Så det at garveriene har en veldig sterk miljøprofil, det veldig viktig.
One of the shoemakers who once emigrated from Flam to the USA came back in the 1930s. Inspired by American moccasins, he modified the Auerland shoe and designed the penny loafer.
We're kind of rebranding. We want to rebrand our image. We want to open up new markets. That's why we have redesigned the shoe and hope that it will help the Auerland brand to new success.
The factory employs 7 people. It supplies boutiques and shoe shops all over Europe. You can also order the shoes on the internet. Penny loafers are only considered genuine with the Norwegian øre coin, although they haven't been pressed in a long time.
When people sort out their cellars, they sometimes find pennies and send them to us in little boxes by post with a little message for us. I always find that very touching.
Det utrolig koselig.
We continue by mountain train from Myrdal to Oslo, right through Hardangervidda. With around 9,000 square kilometres, it's the largest national park in Norway and the largest plateau in Europe. Here at 1,400 metres above sea level, the climate is Arctic. That means the winter is long, the summer of only 2 months short. Even then, the temperature rarely climbs above 10 degrees.
Hei. Tusen takk. Hei. Hei.
About 5 to 6 minutes.
Når man kommer på jobb, så
When I start in the morning and get to work, I already know roughly how many people get on and off at the stations. I make sure that everything goes well, especially at the fuller stations.
Enkelte stasjoner på veldig mye av- og påstigning, mye folk.
After 4 hours, the train reaches Norway's highest station, Finse, a tiny village with no road, no path, but with guests from another star.
Normally, I'm a housewife and very shy, but when I wear the costumes, I have several costumes, not only this one, I feel a little more secure, and I can talk to other people better.
We drove 1,500 kilometers from Nuremberg to here, and he drove an additional 300 kilometers by camper.
And all this to be here once in the ice desert. In 1979, it was the film location for the movie Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back.
It's just very exclusive, I'd say. It's really difficult to come here. The reason was to take the costumes to the original place. It's totally different from doing it somewhere in the city or at an event. It involves snow. It involves a lack of trees. It has to be above the tree line. It really has to be the ice planet Hoth. Only then is it real.
Finse was the barren, hostile ice planet Hoth. But instead of Darth Vader, only the snowblower of the Norwegian Railway appears here today. Apart from a few cabins, there is also a hotel. It opened in 1909, at the same time as the Bergen Railway. Claudia and Thomas belong to the Star Wars fan community, which has arranged to meet here. The two trench troopers met on a fan site on the internet. Their daughter is 20 and her name is Leia, named after the princess from the movie.
He sent me a picture. Then I knew what he looked like and that he knew a lot about Star Wars. It was good that he liked that too, because two crazy people fit together better than if only one had the hobby.
These are two different fan areas. Claudia collects the books, comics and trading cards. With me, it's model making, costumes, collecting action figures, building dioramas with such figures. And what we have in common are the trips we take to Star Wars locations. Here is the most exotic and the most difficult place to reach.
At the track, we have to get on the train again.
We only have a 40-second stop. By then, everyone must have got in and out.
The Star Wars fans will stay here for 2 more days on their ice planet, Hoth. The next stop is Geilo, the oldest winter sports area in Norway. Right after their maiden voyage, the first ski tourists came to Geilo by train. Today there are 220 kilometers of cross-country ski trails and almost 40 kilometers of ski runs. In the early Middle Ages, Geilo was famous for its artistic blacksmiths, especially sought after, cutlery and hunting knives. Master of the art of knives is the Brusletto Company. Ken Ove Nyhus has recently been appointed managing director. He's currently in the process of learning the individual steps of the production process.
I'm working on all the machines, so one's involved in every step of the production process. Everyone here has to be able to do everything and know how it works. Everyone must be able to stand in for anyone. This is how we understand our craft.
In 1896, the company founder, Rognald Brusletto, imported 4 of these huge electric hammers from the USA and used them to build his own tools for knife production.
We used to have hydroelectric power for the parts, so without it, it's quite a feat of strength here. We had 4 generators in our heyday to power these hammers. We had 4 of them.
Brusletto casts the knife blanks once a year and processes them bit by bit. Casting, grinding and polishing are only 3 of the up to 50 work steps that are necessary here.
When we've forged it and everything else is finished, the last step is grinding and polishing. If the machine doesn't do it properly enough, we do it by hand.
Brusletto transports the knives on the Bergen train for shipping to Oslo or Bergen.
Geilo is located right in the middle between Oslo and Bergen. The Bergen Railway is very important for Geilo and for the local economy because the train is the only reliable connection in winter. Otherwise, Geilo would be completely cut off and there would be nothing here.
Traces of the Vikings can be found all over Norway. Their heyday lasted from the middle of the 8th century to the end of the 11th century. The religious relics of their descendants still stand, like the stave church of Torkil from the 12th century. The bell tower was demolished. It is the only stave church in Norway that still stands in its original place and has not been moved. Jørgen Vik and Inger Bjørk do voluntary work to preserve the stave churches. Jørgen makes an inspection once a month. Though the churches have defied the seasons for centuries, wind, rain and snow put a strain on roofs and windows.
I write reports to the authorities about my inspections. I'm responsible for a total of 3 stave churches here in the district and have to train the tourist guides.
Stave churches consist of about 2,000 wooden parts, individually assembled without a single screw.
When Norway was Christianized around 1030, the first stave churches were built with the staves in the ground. But there they rotted. Therefore, they began to build them above ground on a stone foundation.
The timber construction has stood firm for 800 years, and even the woodworms spare planks, beams and staves.
This is unique. It's as old as the church itself, from around the 1160s.
Cirka 1160, I hvert fall siste halvdel av 1100-tallet.
There is a hole in this trunk. It's the only church in Norway that has this. This is where the holy water and the baptismal water was in. Afterwards, they poured the water into this hole, and because the ground was consecrated, the water remained on holy ground.
Today, only 28 of the original 750 Norwegian stave churches have survived. There's another one 60 kilometres away, another relic from the Viking age, Ulfdal Stave Church. On Sundays, the congregation gathers here for worship just like 800 years ago. The church in Ulfdal is a middle-mast or one-mast stave church. It has a mast in the middle. Beams connect it to the four corner masts, so it supports the bell and the roof.
This church used to be much smaller. There were no windows, only small holes, and no benches. Only when we became Protestant in 1537 did it get a pulpit and the benches.
Our window glass was broken in a storm. Until the glazier arrives, a temporary solution will have to do. But Jorund discovers another problem: snow. The roof is actually covered with a thick layer of tar, but there is obviously a leak.
The roof had a new covering 2 and 5 years ago. It was retarred last summer, so really nothing should leak through.
The church, from the year 1200, is built according to Viking design. They cut off the crowns of selected pine or oak trunks and pulled off the bark. The wood resinified. It's a unique building that still defies wind and weather today. Back on the Bergen train. The Norwegian railway network is mostly single track. There are siding tracks to make way for the oncoming train. If the oncoming train is late, the train will have to wait. It's coordinated from Oslo. About 30 kilometres from Nesbyen station is Langedrag Nature Park in the middle of the forest. Tuva Thorsen lives here with her moose.
He's always a bit angry when he sees the halter, but he needs training. Good, very good. No, no, no.
A forester brought 2 orphaned moose here years ago. Their mother had been run over by a car. Tuva pepped them up and took over more animals. The 2 youngsters are brothers, barely a year old.
This is the daily training with the halter, so that they learn to feel comfortable with it and aren't stressed by people. I was there when they were born, and I'm like a mum to them. We're a family here.
Even though it looks cosy, moose are stubborn. Tuva trains the moose to lose their fear of people.
Prosjektet her jo et ønske om å gi
The idea behind this project is that visitors can get close to the kings of the forest.
som jo majestetisk å få lov til å kjenne
So the people are allowed to feed moose by hand,
Gi den da mat fra hånden, og det jo
and most of them have never petted a moose before.
klappe disse her og kose med dem, det sterkt.
Langadrag Zoo is located at the eastern end of Hardangervidda.
Så fine. Hei, hei. Skal vi ta likevel en tørrballer?
What was once a small farm has grown over the years into an estate of over 400 hectares with 25 species. Tuva and her staff feed around 350 animals every morning, from rabbits to wolves. They live from donations and entrance fees.
Så fint. Hei, ja. Hei, Tommy. 40 år tilbake, da var det min mor og far.
We started here 40 years ago with my mother and father.
Jeg hadde passert 60 år, som turte å ta det skrittet og selge.
My father had sold his chair factory in Oslo to buy this land and build a farm here.
Og 2 butikker i Oslo by for å bli i stand til å kjøpe dette landområdet her.
So we moved here, my father, my mother, my sister and I. It was my parents' dream to create a place for animals and people on a farm.
Med dyr og natur. Vi ønsker å drive leirskole.
In 1981, even wolves from an experimental station came to her. Meanwhile, their offspring live here in 2 different packs. Tuva has known 2 wolf brothers since birth, and this is how a lifelong friendship developed.
Hei, gutten min. Hei, kom igjen. Kom igjen. Hei, så fin gutt. Hei. Ja, så fin. En liten sus. Å, så fin gutt. Hei.
The 2 are no longer dangerous. One is almost blind and the other almost deaf.
They were so small, I slept with them when they were 8 days old, for 6 weeks, so that they could build up trust in people. Then I worked with them every day.
Og så har jeg jobbet med dem hver dag etter det. Den tillit ligger til grunn for trivsel.
Word got around that animals find a species-appropriate home here. Foresters from the surrounding area bring injured or orphaned animals to Tuva in Langadrag. They live here too. These are the lynxes from a scientific research station, and Tuva speaks their language as well.
These are simply fantastically beautiful animals. I think they're really incredible. Hey, that's right. Hello, you. You're a nice animal.
The 12 lynx are nocturnal loners. There's plenty of room to get out of each other's way in Langadrag.
Hei, så fint. I really
enjoy showing that I have built up trust in this way. the lynxes feel really safe here.
Som helt trygge. Hvorfor har vi gaupene? For vi tar det litt europeisk avls.
We even participate in the European breeding program, which started 25 years ago when we got the animals from the University of Oslo.
I Oslo.
Next stop, Voss. In the middle of the 18th century, glass factories were established in this area. They still exist. The Harderland Glassworks, Norway's oldest industrial factory.
Bare hvis det kommer folk som ikke jobber her, inn I verkstedet.
You have to avoid each other, but we know what our colleagues do and where they want to go. So you can always jump aside.
Leif Tore Brenner started at 15 in the glassblowing workshop. The furnaces from the 1960s run at 1200 degrees around the clock. Glass blowers need a creative streak, an eye for detail, and skill.
This isn't difficult for us, but on the next bar, different parts are hanging from the hot glass. Then it's worth more than €2,000, and if you dropped it and it broke, it would be rather sad.
Today, designers work here. They create unusual objects, which the glassblowers still produce in the same way as their colleagues did in 1765.
We weren't sure for a while whether someone might lose their job, but now we are fine again. We've invested a lot, and we're positive that things will continue to improve.
Until 1968, the Harderland Glassverk had its own railway connection. Today, the raw materials come by truck. A few kilometres north of the railway line is what was once Norway's largest mining town, Kongsberg. Today, Erik Engebretsen shows tourists how the miners worked there for centuries. The old wagon travels down into the mountain more than a kilometre. The fact that there was anything to extract here at all is thanks to two children. They found a lump of silver in the forest in 1623. Farmers quickly discovered the mine. In some years, the miners extracted 12 tons of silver, but in the middle of the 20th century, the mine dried up and was closed in 1958.
Here we're in the main shaft of the Royal Mine, and with 342 metres up and 700 metres down, it's the deepest part of all, 1,068 metres. 3 Eiffel Towers fit in here, one above the other.
The old elevator still works, just like it used to. They went 300 metres down, unsecured. At its height, up to 4,500 miners slaved here in 300 unsecured shafts, with mallets and irons, or rather sledgehammers and chisels. The miners had their own songs.
There were no miners in Norway, so the king wrote to Germany and recruited lots of miners from the Harz Mountains. They spoke German and had their own customs and habits, of course.
Og de kom da opp hit og begynte da å hakke og banke ut dette sølvet.
At that time, they spoke mostly German here, and I think it was a bit difficult for the farmers in the area to understand anything.
Ich glaube, es war ein bisschen schwierig dann für den Bauern hier in die Umgebungen etwas zu verstehen.
Eric was a teacher and learned a little German. One shift lasted 10 hours, and the miners mostly worked in a stooped position. It wasn't worth the effort to exit the mine for a 1-hour break, so they built break rooms where they had tea or a short nap. In spite of all the coziness, the job was life-threatening.
Min tippoldefar, han jobba I gruva her, og han var utsatt.
Many of us have ancestors who worked in the mine. My great-great-great-grandfather was killed here in a fire in 1856, and others with him.
Stollen, som vi sier, de jobba jo da mot hverandre.
The fire came down into the mine from both sides. He probably suffocated down here.
Kom der inne på grunn av oksygenmangel da, sannsynligvis.
Eric wants the stories of that time to be remembered. Mining is an important part of Norway's history. One hour to Oslo.
In the past, trains and railways didn't interest me at all, not even as a child. I never thought I would do this job, but it's fun, and I'm glad I've got it. My colleagues are great, and we have a great working atmosphere.
After a little over 7 hours, the Bergenbahn reaches the station of the capital on time.
Sånn. Ha det fint.
I start at 7:30 tomorrow morning. I have to get up early and prepare for the trip. My shift ends at 3:30.
Fra 7:30 til 3:30 cirka.
Oslo Central Station, the busiest in Norway with 150,000 passengers a day. 5.3 million people live in the country. 1 in 3 live in the Oslo area. In 2019, Oslo was the green capital of Europe. The Parliament, the Royal Palace, the Norwegians love their monarchy. The Nobel Peace Prize is awarded in the City Hall. The Opera House is also the pride of the city. 5 ski resorts are on Oslo's doorstep. In winter, it gets dark around 3 p.m. And then the Norwegians love it cozy and sweet. Then it's his time. Waffle baker Jonathan Larsen. He's had a shop in the city centre for 5 years, even though the native Swede actually wanted to become a mathematician.
Norsk matkultur liksom ikke så hipp om dagen.
Norwegian food isn't considered hip.
Litt glemt, særlig I hovedstaden der.
It has the reputation of being rather boring.
Stort for den kampen da, og faktisk viser frem til at norsk mat også
And I want it to be modern and cool again.
Ellers har det litt dårlig rykte for før.
Eggs, butter, sugar, cardamom, and a shot of orange soda. That gives the dough a little bit of acidity and makes it light and fluffy. The big hit is the waffle with brown cheese, a goat cheese specialty.
Classic waffle med rømme. Voilà.
I make a classic waffle with crème fraîche and something sweet, the way you like it. I always use raspberry jam. That's the best.
Sier bringebær best, alltid.
On top, brown cheese. Not everyone's cup of tea. It all started 8 years ago at Harald Hardrada's square. Jonathan had just moved from Malmö to Oslo, but the Norwegian capital was expensive.
Så hadde jeg det soverommet her, flyttet inn kollektiv.
I lived here in a flat share.
Begynte å studere matematikk.
I was studying mathematics at the time.
Rett og slett. Så vi hadde det koselige lille
There were 5 of us. I needed money, so I just started selling waffles out of my room's window.
And this is what it looked like back then. A good extra income until the food inspectors thwarted him. Jonathan had to find a new place. In the meantime, many Oslo residents know the inventive waffle baker and his special creations. He dropped out of mathematics and has no regrets. His formula for happiness is simply the waffles.
Welcome to the world's best waffle shop.
Verdensberømte vaffelbutikken. Voilà. Likevel. Voilà, vær så god. Smakelig måltid.
Ja. Og bacon. Jo middag. Jeg spiser ikke så veldig ofte vafler.
We often make waffles, especially when the family gets together on Sundays. We eat them instead of cake.
I stedet for kake, så det fort gjort å lage vaffel.
That's what we understand by kos in Norway, which means cozy in English. We continue north on the Dovre train. 320 kilometers from Oslo Fjord over the mountains to Donbass. Göran Torbeck is usually a conductor on suburban trains, but he prefers to be here.
På grunn av utsikt.
We have the view, we have the mountains, and all 4 seasons. Here we have snow, rain, sun, all in one day. That's why I like the Dovre Railway best.
Lake Mjøsa glistens in the winter sun. Norway's largest inland waterway is up to 450 meters deep and rarely freezes over. Ice anglers are therefore turning to smaller lakes with solid ice sheets. Thomas Odegaard knows the trade particularly well. He's the Norwegian ice fishing champion. The ice layer is 80 centimetres thick, and underneath are perch, whitefish and pike. That's exactly what he wants to catch today. His dream, a 15-kilo specimen. He'd throw it back into the lake after taking a picture.
Now I found a corner where the fish dabble. There's grass at the bottom, so I'm using bait that I hope will attract the fish.
An adult pike can weigh up to 25 kilos.
For the pike, I take a strong rod, which has a thicker line, a 4mm thick line, and a spool that can handle a pike.
As soon as a fish bites and pulls on the line, an alarm sounds.
I started
fishing when I was 6 years old. My grandfather used to take me fishing, and the older I got, the more I fished. Then I started competitions and won some. Fishing is my life. I have an online shop for fishing equipment and show people the right places.
Even after 5 hours, no pike has bitten, only a few whitefish.
The secret to being successful at competition fishing is that you have to fish a lot. You have to understand the fish, know what they eat, find their hiding places, and you have to work hard.
The ice fishing season runs from November to April. Outdoor activities are part of it, especially in winter.
I'm usually on the ice for about 75 days, but if you take that for 30 years, I'm on the road a lot. It's a typical Norwegian tradition. You go on the ice, bring something to eat, and enjoy the weather.
Even though alcohol is extremely expensive here, there's always a schnapps to be had. On its way through the mountains, the Dovre train passes through 42 tunnels and climbs 960 metres.
Men når det går over, så blir det helt sikkert bra, tenker jeg.
Josefine Martinsen is studying social work. She often commutes between her parents' house and her place of study, Lillehammer.
It's more convenient even if you have to go to the airport in Oslo or visit friends. It's simply more reliable.
After 2 hours, the Dovre train reaches the venue of the 1994 Winter Olympics, Lillehammer. Today, 28,000 people live in the city. In 1827, there were just 50. And its strategic location by Lake Mjøsa has brought wealth to Lillehammer. All merchants who came from the Gudbrands Valley had to pass through here. 5 ski resorts surround the sport-loving town. just outside is the Olympic Park, a prime example of Norwegian sustainability. The Norwegian state has invested 15 million euros in its maintenance. Athletes from all over the world still train here under Olympic conditions. Josefine Martinsen caught bob fever 2 years ago.
Jeg begynte å jobbe her, så fikk jeg tilbudet om å bli med en kollega av meg og kjøre bob.
When I started here, my colleague took me on a two-man bob.
Den som sitter bakerst I bobben og passer på at
I enjoyed it so much that I became a brakewoman last season.
Da vi jobber her, så kan vi ha med turister I å kjøre en firmannsbob.
Then someone asked me if I wanted to ride a monobob. That's how it all started.
Det var veldig gøy. Da tenkte jeg at dette må jeg fortsette med.
20 minutes of driving time, only to arrive again later in 1.5 minutes. Actually, Josefina works on the bobsleigh track, but when there's nothing going on, she takes the opportunity to practice a lap herself.
I'm changing the sitting position. It's too long and has to fit exactly.
Endre på det så jeg sitter riktig på turen ned.
1.7 kilometers with 16 corners, and that at a speed of up to 120 kilometers per hour. Some bobbers have come off the track on some of the curves here.
When you stand here, you're very focused. You see the track in front of you, and you think about how and what you're going to do on the run. When you think you can do it, you can go. But if not, you'd better wait.
Da gjør vi banen klar for en monobob fra bobstart. Clear track for a monobob from bobstart. And the track is clear.
Adrenaline and thrills. A small mistake and Josefina would fly off the curve at 120 kilometers an hour. "86 seconds. The record on this track is 58.
I have respect. That's important. It's a high-speed track and I don't want to crash at 100 kilometers an hour. So you have to have respect for what you're doing here.
The snow lies in Lillehammer about 7 months a year, from the beginning of October until the end of April. A few kilometres outside there is a famous castle where many fairy tale characters live together. Askeladen, the Norwegian Cinderella, as well as trolls. And because Norwegians love the winter so much, there is an ice hotel nearby where people spend the night on reindeer skins. You can also say, "I do" here, if it's not too cold. Lillehammer is surrounded by thick forests. They consist of 90% of spruce, pine or birch and are valuable raw material suppliers for industry, construction and, since a few years ago, also for instrument making. In this backyard hides an internationally known guitar workshop. It belongs to Øystein Hussemoen. He named his company Norwegian Wood.
Når jeg startet med her, var cirka 10 år siden.
When I started here 10 years ago, I asked myself why we import wood from the other side of the world when I live in the largest forest in the world. Why not use what we have here anyway?
Øystein prefers to build electric guitars. The slowly growing, dense Norwegian wood produces a particularly good sound for them.
This is birch, and this is spruce. Everything sounds different when you knock on it. This one sounds like this. This one has a different timbre.
Each instrument is a unique piece, sprayed by hand according to the customer's wishes. It takes up to 6 weeks to finish a customer-made instrument.
Her halsen som skal på den gitaren. Her har vi bøk.
The neck is made of birch.
Og kroppen alm.
And the body of elm, which is a very good combination that works well.
Det fungerte veldig bra tidligere, så da håper vi gjør det nå igjen.
Meanwhile, Øystein is a big name in the international music scene. Famous rock stars play on his instruments, including Bruce Springsteen's guitarist.
Jeg har hatt noen heldig å møte på noen litt større artister.
I was lucky to meet some musicians who were interested in my guitars.
Geilo kunne gjøre det.
And that's great, of course.
For eksempel til Sting, eller...
I built one for Sting and for Stephen Van Zandt.
Jeg lagde gitar til...
Stephen made a TV series here. That's really fun.
TV-serie her og sånn, så er det litt gøy å lage litt sånn...
Øystein learned instrument making in Klingenthal, Saxony. In Norway, there was no such training. From Lillehammer, the Dovre train continues uphill through the Valley to Donbass. The Valley, 320 kilometres long, is named after the Viking chief Dale Gudbrand. He's said to have ridden through the whole valley with a torch in his hand in one night to Christianise the farmers. In Donbass, the Rauma train is already waiting. Guri Sødentne is the conductor on the last and perhaps most spectacular stage. Train conductor Göran continues with the Dovre train. "114 kilometers to Andalsnes." Guri is a second-generation conductor in the family.
My father works here. He always said that this isn't only a great job, but also a safe job. He wanted me to try it. That's what I did.
The area around Fjords is popular. Many Norwegians have a holiday home here. The Tøring family business has been building such wooden houses for 60 years. They are built according to the Lego building block principle. Øyvind Tøring is the junior boss. He has the overview on the building site. 7 employees work here in parallel.
We do 3 or 4 houses a year at the same time. When we finish the exterior work of one, we let it dry for a few weeks and continue with the next one.
Precision work is called for. Every part has to be sawn with millimeter precision. In the past, it was manual work. Today, software helps with this.
Today, we saw the wood with large machines, according to the old patterns, and make it fit exactly. On the building site, everything is simply joined together.
This house is already sold. The new owner can move in a few weeks. The Rauma train is on its way to the northern European Sea. It was put into operation in 1924. It leads along the Dovrefjell. Fjell, in English, means mountains. Dovrefjell is one of the largest wilderness areas in Europe. The Vikings crossed it already 1,000 years ago, but nobody has ever settled here in this hostile area. Johan Schönheider hikes in the mountains almost every day. The retired biochemist was very ill some years ago. To keep fit, he started hiking and became a tourist guide. His enthusiasm is for the musk oxen.
Here are some tracks. These are tracks of musk oxen, and I can see that they were here. I can see some tracks from yesterday because it was raining, and then the old tracks disappear. The fresh tracks indicate that musk oxen might be nearby. To look for them here in the open country over sticky snow and ice, however, is only possible with snowshoes.
The musk oxen became extinct here with the last ice age. In the 1940s and 50s, animals from Greenland were resettled. There are now 260 specimens in the region. After 4 hours, a small group is in sight. Johan keeps his distance. The animals shouldn't feel threatened.
The social system of the musk oxen is a bit like that of an extended family. It's not necessarily the biological father of the calves who accompanies the cows over there, but he tries to keep them together.
Johan wants to carry on, looking for a second herd. An hour later, he's found them. Temperatures down to -20 degrees. Musk oxen are used to that. NASA astronauts' underwear is made of this wool, by the way.
They have discarded this musk ox wool. They have two different kinds of wool, summer and winter. This undercoat is from winter. It's fantastically soft. It insulates 8 times more than sheep's wool. When you put it in your pocket, you will always have soft hands because of the lanolin.
Romsdalen, the Rauma Valley. With the famous Troll Wall, Europe's steepest rock face. They filmed Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince in this spectacular landscape. The landmark of the Rauma train, the almost 60-metre-high Killingbru.
There's a lot of nature here, and then these mountains. The train goes from the mountains down to the valley till the water, then to Andalsnes.
The Rauma train has left the mountains behind and the sea is near. At Andalsnes, the train has reached its destination. After 1,000 kilometers through Norway's south, the winter journey ends at the European North Sea.